really to be able to articulate what dysgraphia was to the people that I was talking to. So let me take you back a little bit, and I want you to imagine a classroom filled with students who are completing their work. Imagine a classroom where the teachers, the occupational therapists, and everyone was excited to be in the classroom. With the work right now, and the way the pandemic has hit us, everyone in the teaching profession and across the world, and every profession right now, but teaching is a very different looking environment than it was a year ago. But I still want you to imagine that. Imagine the child's future, because they can create sentences, paragraphs, and they can communicate effectively. So, merhaba, action-minded, innovative, value-driven word changers. Be relentlessly optimistic. It will change the lives of your students. I am humbled that you would bring me into your country and into your home tonight. You have heard from, have you ever heard this from one of your students? 8 words? Are you kidding me? Are you joking me? You want me to write 8 words? I did. Meanwhile, the mom is standing behind the student, blushing with embarrassment. I looked right back at him and I said to him, I know it seems like a huge mountain, 8 words, but I believe in you. I know that you can do this. Now, let's get started. And after each word, I will let you take a break and do something else, and we'll come back to it. Little secret is, by the time we hit the 4th word, he just wanted to finish. So I was wondering if you could put in the chat, are you a teacher? Are you a therapist? Are you a parent? What country are you from? Let me know a little bit about you so I know who I'm talking to this evening.
Yeah, and I like the word merhaba. How have you learned that?
How did I learn merhaba?
Yes.
I learned it from a friend of mine who I believe might be online. Her name is Shigdam.
I'm just checking Chidam Neba.
So we have a parent and a coach that's signed in. Okay. Shigdam's putting in her Turkish name in the comments. Shigdam is an author and she is a specialist in dyslexia.
Okay.
Parent coach. So thank you for telling us a little bit about where you are from. Wow. Wow, we have somebody from South Africa here.
Yes.
Math coach, Ohio. Well, thank you. I do believe I recognize that name, Jonna Lee. Thank you, Jonna Lee, for being here. Jonna Lee is another friend of mine. So thank you very much for everyone for being here. So let me get back to what I was trying to say. So how many of you have had students and colleagues have trouble with writing? Reading? Mathematics? How about you? Do you have trouble as well? If you were to ask them, what would they say when they were refusing to write? I can't think of what to say. My hand hurts. I can't spell. I have trouble seeing what's on the paper. As I was looking to prepare for this evening, I found an article about teaching in Turkey. And according to that article, I was astonished, okay? 25% of your students are at risk for developing specific learning disabilities. 9% of teachers have not heard the term specific learning disability. And this one was wow. 65% of parents have not heard the term. Yet teachers and parents are expected to work together and collaborate on helping their students. This study also found that 32% of parent-teacher collaboration was strained due to specific learning disabilities. And if that is something that you see as part of what is happening in your culture today, please let me know in the chat. I keep using the word specific learning disability, and not quite sure if you know what that means, but basically it's a delay in reading, writing, and mathematics. I believe, Dr. Kisa, make sure I'm telling the truth, that you utilize the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Health Disorders in Turkey?
Yeah, of course.
We do?
Yeah.
According to that book, a specific learning disability is a developmental delay in reading, writing, and mathematics. And what the specific areas that are difficulties with the writing part, that's grammar, punctuation, capitalization, sentence structure, paragraph organization, clarity, and spelling.
Yep.
So before we investigate, let me tell you another story. One of the adult students that works with me was taking the course that I offer, and she was sitting in an IEP meeting with a new student. Now, our school year goes from the very end of August through June. So this was the beginning of August, and she's sitting in this IEP meeting with this mother of a 10-year-old boy. He was expelled from a different school, and she was looking for a new place to place him. The reason he was expelled from the other school is because he kept running away from school. She was describing his behaviors. And when he was asked to write, he would do things like yell at the teachers, punch things. One thing is he never punched people, but on occasion he was tossing desks. So with those really violent behaviors, they were looking at those behaviors and they weren't seeing the real cause of the problem. Now, let's look at some of the behaviors that you might see when you have somebody with dysgraphia. You might be avoiding handwriting. You might have an awkward pencil grasp. You might have awkward letter appearance, difficulties with pencils. They might break a lot. Difficulty with managing your left and your right margins, maybe the top and the bottom margin, you know, those kids that write down the side of the page. You might have hand cramps. You might, I've actually seen this happen where a kid is intently watching their finger while they're writing. You might have a pencil pressure that's too heavy or too light. You might have poor fine motor skills. You might be unorganized in your paragraph formation and your thoughts. You might have unusual positions that you put your hand in, and you might have awkward position that you put the paper in to write. Written expression, their written expression does not meet the expectations of the curriculum at school. So essentially, these kids are being impacted by all these other pieces, not just grammar, spelling, and punctuation. All these other pieces go with being able to access their writing.
Cheri, sorry to interrupt. Are we talking about the first graders and second graders, or we are talking about more, the bigger scope?
Yeah, dysgraphia goes across the board, but I'm beginning back at those early writers and really being able to access their ability to actually form a letter. But dysgraphia does go across the board, and I'm going to explain a little bit as we go on how that developmental process works. So like dyslexia, like autism, like ADHD, and alike, there is a spectrum. So some kids might have one or two of those ideas, but not necessarily all of them. In the states, the document that we use to write down the information about special education is called the Individualized Education Program. Now, when I was looking for information from Turkey, it says that you use Special Education Law 573. Does that make sense to everyone?
Yeah, who knows the law? Yes.
Yes. We have several categories, and not all the categories fit a delay in reading, writing, and math. That one is the specific learning disability. And if they have a neurological condition, they may get bumped into a different category. So like an autism might get bumped into autism, and an ADHD might get bumped into other health impairments. So it's very, you have to really understand the document and where to place the kids. So I don't know how intricate your law is, but keep that in mind as you're advocating for these students. So let me get back to that story I was talking about. That little boy that was running away from the school, he was placed in a category about autism, which really was impacting the behaviors. They weren't helping teaching him to read, write, and do mathematics. So as my colleague was sitting in this meeting, she started asking, have you ever heard the word dysgraphia? Have you ever heard the word dyslexia? How about dyscalculia? And what happened was, Mom said, yeah, she had heard of dyslexia, but really didn't know what it was. She never heard of the other two. So my friend went on to describe some of these symptoms that I talked to you a little bit ago. And she eventually asked the team if she could reevaluate that child. Now, let's talk a little bit about what dysgraphia really is. I've developed a 6-tier level because as a researcher and a professional that specializes in sensory processing disorder, I could see a very distinct correlation between the two. So the first level is Visual-Spatial Dysgraphia, and that level really is an inability to understand what a letter, a number, a symbol, what those things look like. A motor dysgraphia is somebody that's really not understanding how to maneuver their body to create the letter. And I created an acronym, and you said that a lot of people have been, somebody else trying to get in, that a lot of people have read through the book, so they may have heard this, this acronym, but it's CAPS. It's control, accuracy, precision, and speed. And I like to look at it from control being postural control, motor control, pencil control. How do they hold their posture? Is it upright? Is it leaning in towards the desk a little bit? How is their motor control? Is it pretty accurate with being able to reach for things and such? And how is their pencil control? Can they hold a pencil with 3 fingers, or is that really difficult for them? So from there, one of the things that I found out is those kiddos that are having trouble with being able to see what they're looking at, and those kiddos that are having trouble with motor function, their neurological development is a little bit delayed. And if it's not a result of a neurological injury, it is just delayed. So the distinguishing factor with this foundation is it's a delay in the development. It is not a long-term neurological dysfunction and something that's going to take an overabundance of time to heal and overcome. So that is the biggest delineation with the dysgraphia versus dysgraphia as a comorbid affiliation with another disability such as ADHD or autism. So one of the things in my research that I have found is that kiddos that are having those delays have a real difficult time with memory. And one of the things I want to talk about with memory is there's different types of memory. With memory, they can potentially schedule their time, or they have trouble describing things with some color or different adjectives that go with it. But kiddos that are having trouble writing, they not only are those pieces of memory having a trouble, but the pieces of memory that go with emotion are also impacted. And what happens is every time a kid goes to write and can't do it, they get another notch of negativity in their emotional memory feedbacks in their brain. So one of the things is their brain has different sections in it, and the center section is the limbic system. The limbic system houses all of those emotions that go along with everything that happens throughout the day. So if every time they go to put a pencil in their hand, and they go to put it to a piece of paper and something is telling them it's not right, they're going to have that flight response that goes with it. What's going to happen? Next time they go to do that, it's going to be, no way, I'm not doing it. So that whole negative feedback loop is just going to build and build and build unless we break it. So we need to learn how to break it. And that was the ultimate decision of why I wrote the book, is helping kids overcome that memory barrier so that they could get to the next level. And Dr. Kisa, this is where the level of education are the levels of that learning to read and learning to write piece moves up a level, and it starts to access those higher grades. So what happens next when you're learning to read and write? You need to be able to put letters together to form words. But kids cannot hear vowels because they have this auditory barrier that's preventing them from being able to access the listening part. So in English, when we have an ending that ends in ER, it's er. But if you look at the phonetics of when you're saying the letter R, it's still er. So how does a kid who has an auditory dilemma make that difference? It takes education and explicit instruction for them to get that there is a vowel there. So one of the things that I talk to them about is that every syllable needs a vowel, and teaching them how to separate syllables is one of the pieces of creating words. And then what I've done is I've created a visual, auditory, and kinesthetic device that has helped. And I'm not sure what page it's on in the book, Dr. Kisa. In the US version of the book, it's on page 156. I'm not sure where it is in your version, but it is called the Body Sentence Alphabet. And basically what I did was I took the letter and I applied some kind of motion that needed to be part of your body as part of that connection to memory. So the word enough in the US language is E-N-U-F. Phonetically, it's spelled E-N-U-F. E-N-O-U-G-H-E-N-U-F. I'll get it right in my brain. Sorry. But when you try to use the body sentence alphabet to spell it, it's E, whoops, N, O, which is open, U, G, H. So it's eyes, nose, open, under your chin, give me your hand, and high five. And having that motion has improved the ability to access their memory and give them a visual image that they can relate back to being able to write. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that's like a management strategy of what we have as the neurological delay for somewhere. But can I ask a question here? If it's a problem, I mean, I'm going to ask a question like a 3 years old or 7 years old boy, if that's okay. Okay, the world is computer world. I'm writing every day on the computer with the keyboards. So why we are writing, why that's so important? Because I also read Dr. Mel Levin's work, because he's really worked on the neurodevelopment strategies, especially for the motor functions, for the attention part, for also the memory part. We have different streamlines, areas for finding a dysgraphia, for sure. But to have dysgraphia, you need to write, right? So what's the difference between computer writing and handwriting? Why it's that important to using hand by writing?
So I want you to create that grocery list. Now, this is the discussion. You're the 7-year-old boy on mom. Hey, we need to run to the store. Can you quick write up a grocery list for me while I am looking around the kitchen to make sure that we have everything we need? So
okay, I'm going to write it on computer. I'm going to do it on my computer.
No, I want you to write it down. And the reason I want you to write it down is because you are going to be able to remember it better for me. So what the science is saying is that the motion of writing it out embeds it in your memory stronger than if you're typing it.
Yeah.
So that is the big core reason, is research is saying that it's better memory function.
So it's important for information processing first.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So there's 2 more levels of dysgraphia that I have really looked at. And one of the reasons I started looking at this is because as an occupational therapist, I would always send this off to the speech therapist, but I had this core that was saying, there's something that I can do that speech therapist is not doing. And there's something that I can do that the teacher doesn't have time for. So I was looking at these next 2 stages as how can I help support teacher and speech therapy and give them other strategies that they can use. And those are sentence formation and paragraph formation. When I do sentence formation stuff, somebody else wants to come in. When I was looking at sentence, I was looking at kiddos with this dysgraphia. They don't even have a clue what a noun is, parts of a verb, parts of speech. They're just not sure. One of the ways that I work with them is I do colors. So we have a sentence, and we will always mark the noun one color, the verb another color, and the other parts of speech different colors. That way, they can start to learn and identify. Just doing it in black and white on a piece of paper and filling in some of those answers wasn't good enough for the students. They needed that color piece to go with it. And another way that I look at the sentence and work with the students is I use note cards. I always say that note cards are my best treatment tool. They're the one I use the most. So we separate the sentence out on separate paragraph note cards, and then I mix up the sentence, and then I have this child put it back in a sentence structure that meets the syntax. That helps reinforce that positioning, and then we might go through and do highlights of the colors before or after they put the sentence together. So that's another strategy. When I look at paragraph formation, I'm basically taking all of those techniques and I'm just upscaling it a little bit. Instead of one word on a note card, I'm using a whole sentence. And we're looking at main paragraph, supplemental paragraphs, closing paragraphs. We might also start to introduce those transition words into paragraphs to make them look more like conversational speech. But we're really starting with the basics, using colors and note cards. I also talk about writing binders. I also do whatever I can to add motion and all different strategies that include motion into my training with these students. Anything to help them get better. So before I talk about a strategy for each one, in addition to those last 2 that I talked to, does anybody have a question? Have you seen any in the,
we can directly pass to the question part, but we never said that you can ask questions. For that reason, we don't see any question. But whenever you're ready, and we can start with the questions part.
So start at putting your questions in, and I'm going to go back to the beginning at the Visual-Spatial, and I want to give you a tool that I use. So I'm using word searches when I'm looking at kids understanding letters. So I'm not having them find words, I'm just having them find letters. So if you create a word search that you know a student is struggling with a specific letter, create a word search and only have them find that item in the word search. If you're looking at motor, use mazes. So I start with very wide mazes, and as the student's pencil control improves, I get that border really, really close. And the closest one you want to get to is about 1/4 of an inch. Okay, I think that is about 3 centimeters if you're using the metric system, but we want to really print that down. But you want it wide so they have success at first. Let them be successful and then increase their control over time. So I use mazes for that. I talked about the body sentence alphabet, and I talked about the note cards, and I talked about the colors. Does that give anybody a tool that they can use tomorrow in their school?
Yeah, I think people are gonna like a tool to define, and so it's like a gift from you.
There you go.
Yeah, I have questions if that's okay for you.
Sure. Now let me finish the story about the little boy who was running away from school. what they did is they fast-tracked his evaluation process, and by the time school actually began, he had a brand new IEP in place. And one of the things that happened, like around September, at beginning of October, is that parent made a phone call to my colleague and said to her, this story makes me cry every time, said to her, hey, my son, I couldn't believe it. This last week, he's been ready for the bus ahead of time. He's out there going, when's the bus coming? When's the bus coming, Mom? He's getting his homework done on time. It's not a struggle anymore. You have changed my child's life. And yes, it chokes me up every time, because that's why the book was written, is because children's lives can be changed. We can overcome this. Yes, there are circumstances where there are other conditions that go alongside it. But if it is true dysgraphia, that it's only that developmental delay, we need to find those strategies that are going to help those kids. And I believe that the different techniques that I've been working on helping those kids are finding ways. That's just one story. There's many kids out there that have been changed. I'm only one person. You see those kids. I can't change those kids. You can. I believe in you. You can change the lives of kids. So I want to thank you, Salom. Thank you for letting me be here, having the opportunity to be in your home, in your country today, talking a little bit about my passion. My passion is changing the lives of children. Thank you.
So we are so happy having you here. And also in your book, you wrote that every child deserves a champion. Yes. I remember those words, and it's very important. And you became the champion for that for that boy. So it's great to hear you're becoming emotional when you're telling it, because of sincerity really overtakes everything, I think.
I try to hold it in. Sometimes it's better than others. Now, I would love to share with you, before I take any questions, I'd love to share with you my brand new, never been released before to the public website. So I'm just going to quick share my screen, and that way you guys can come and you can learn some more, because there's more strategies, more techniques, more things in there. And I have to move things out of the way so that I can see it. So this is it. It's cheridotterer.com. So it's just my name. So just remember my name and you'll be able to find it. So, is legible handwriting why your student is failing school? It can be overcome. And I have created a quiz. Yes, it's in English. So that might be a disconnect for you. But if you're really struggling to figure out which one of those areas of dysgraphia that there might be a problem, you can take that quiz. All right.
Yeah.
And if you go to the parents page, there's one more thing, and then I won't share any more with that. If you go and you put your name in here to the parents guide, I have all those symptoms that I talked about laid out that you can take them home. So if you go to Cheri Dotterer, you can either take the quiz or download the parents guide, and you can have a resource that you can take home today.
So we're gonna put also the link under the YouTube video, so that's gonna better to reach you on that part.
I spelled it wrong. I'm spelling too fast.
Yeah. Okay.
There we go.
So I have a question. Sure. I also see in your book that dysgraphia is a genetic condition.
Yes, it is. And dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia have been proven by geneticists to run in the family.
Yeah. So we cannot change the genetic, but we can put some management strategies for dysgraphia, if I understood right.
That's correct.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
In your book also I saw many management strategies to improve the life of a child, and it seems very important to you, to everybody actually, to a child too. So that's very important, the genetic part. And also one question more, then I'm gonna give Figen and the others for the questions too. I know that in United States, spelling is very important part. Spelling is letter by letter, but in Turkish, spelling is not that important. In our schools, spelling is something different than United States because we have group of letters. And we are lucky about something that we read what we hear. I mean, it's very similar reading and writing, and there is no difference between them. In English, for example, if you write umbrella, then you can read differently, but in Turkish it's umbrella, yeah. Just like what it reads as a letter. Do you think that that would change the life of a child? Because I believe that to read and write is same, it could be easier for the people, but not in like French, for example, it's very difficult to read and write. In English, it's a little bit easier, but in Turkish, it's exactly how it is spelled, how it is written. That's
well, I wish it was like that in English, because I think that would have caused a lot of less of a problem with our students. And one of the things that I was finding was that there was no strategies to help spelling. So I went, my mission was to help overcome that.
Yeah, I hope you are helping already. So it's great. Thank you very much for that. And I have other questions and people, actually I need to invite the other people. I can ask many questions, but it's better them to ask.
Exactly.
The others who wants to join.
So I want to know where she is. Where is my friend who showed me the book that she had at home? Where's Yeliz?
Yeliz is here.
There she is. Hi, and she's on screen. Thank you. So I need to tell everybody a story about Yeliz. Yeliz reached out to me 2 years ago and asked me about my book when it was still in English alone. And it was like the same week that I got a message from my publisher that they wanted to translate to Turkish. So she has been waiting for what, a good 2 years, 18 months for her to be able to read it in your language. So Yeliz, I'm glad it's finally done for you.
If Yeliz wants to join, we would like to hear her too, if she is. Do you want to join, Yeliz?
Thank you, Cheri. Ama İngilizce katılmam mümkün değil çünkü alıcı dilim çok iyi ama ifade edici dilim hiç iyi değil.
It's for me very difficult to speak in English. For that reason, it's impossible me to join. But I'm very happy that you invited me to.
Evet, çok teşekkür ediyorum katkılarından dolayı.
She thanks for your all contributions.
Oh, thank you. Okay. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Teşekkürler Yeliz bu arada.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who wants to join and ask questions?
I think Esra is going to ask.
Esra,
am I right, Esra?
Now.
Yes. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to hear and learn from you. And thank you for sharing your time generously with us. My son has sensory processing disorder, diagnosed like that. And if I'm right, you said you're a specialist for that.
Yeah,
like
it's been that was the foundation of my learning, was sensory processing disorders.
Mm-hmm.
I made that connection with the dysgraphia over time.
He got lots of therapy, occupational therapy and speaking therapy also. He's in really good shape right now, but I sometimes struggle, how can I support him better? So if you would give one or two like suggestion, that would be really, really helpful for me.
So
I'm sorry, I'm asking a question. Maybe I feel like I'm like selfish, but I really wanted to ask.
No, you're not selfish. I bet you this is going to help everyone. So one of the things that I suggest to parents who are having trouble with that sensory processing versus the writing, a motor thing that might happen, and I want you to imagine little hand, big pen, big pencil, okay? What happens is they don't have enough control of their fingers and it's wobbling all over the place, so they can't write. So one of the things that I do with a standard pencil is I break them all the time. get little pencils, little crayons. I take crayons and I make them a 1/2 inch long. And I insist that they use their pincer, these two fingers, to color and write. Now we're not doing writing, but we're doing those different activities with writing that they're using that and getting used to that. There is a website that is not mine, but it's absolutely wonderful. The songs are great. Yes, they're in English. I know that. Please forgive me on that one. But it's called The TV Teacher. And she has The TV Teacher. And she has this song that talks about this, using the 3 fingers to talk, and she calls this the alligator. We want the alligator pinch. So sometimes getting the kids to understand that they need to use these 2 fingers is a huge challenge because their muscles in the back of their hand are weak. And they don't want to use them because the one in their long finger is stronger. So they want to write this way instead of this way. Okay. So getting those and teaching a song and teaching motion to go with it kind of goes along with my theory of auditory, visual, and motion. The other thing, and it flew my mind, I had something else I wanted to say to you. Oh, I know what it was. The other thing is, like I said, the back of the hand is weak. So any exercise that you can do that's going to put weight against their hand in a very extensive position, almost like flat. So the idea would be put a book on your hand, raise your hands up over your head straight, and then carry the book around on your tiptoes, on your heels, tiptoes, heels, and go back and forth. So it kind of looks like this. Okay, and then you're going toes, heels. They can't control their balance. So over time, that might get better. And what it's doing by pushing that stretch back is it's strengthening the muscles in the back of the hand so that when they go to write, they're more prepared for the motion.
Thank you. That was really, really helpful. And he has no problem with English, so I can go find that TV.
The TV
He's already half English, so half American. So
yes.
one thing, Cheri, dyslexia was the very popular word before.
Sorry, I'm thetvteacher.com. And she has a YouTube channel, but once you go to her website, then it'll take you over to her YouTube channel. So your next question, sorry.
There's another question, but I'm gonna go there after my question. Dyslexia was the most popular word in that area, totally. Later, dyscalculia came, and after now, dysgraphia came. And actually, first time I heard from your book, Dysgraphia. This is good, meanwhile. And there's another word, Dyspraxia. What is Dyspraxia? I really wonder about that. Is there anything related to your area or?
Yes, praxis is movement. So it's a dysfunction in movement. So usually if someone has a dyspraxia and a difficulty with movement, they probably also have another neurological condition to go with it. So and they might have oral dyspraxia, so they have difficulty creating words. So oral expression and written expression may be impacted by dyspraxia as well. It kind of goes along with the motor dysgraphia. It's kind of a similar term.
Okay, thank you very much for explanation. There is a question here. I want to ask a question about asynchronic brain-body relation and preschool Montessori methods. Is it a good method to make easy to learn for unsynchronization of brain and body? Thanks a lot. Mehmet asked this question. I'm not sure that he's going to directly ask orally the question or just for me. You can read the question also on the chat part.
I'm looking at, I'm rereading it again. When they ask asynchronous brain-body relationship. I think what he's talking about is bringing parts of the body going in opposite directions, and what that, so I'm going to take that back a step, and Mehmet, Mehmet is.
Mehmet.
If I am on the wrong track, please let me know. So what happens is when the kids are little, their body moves as one big unit. And what we need to do over time is we need to get their bodies going in different motions, okay? So as your muscle groups get smaller over time, you want to get them being able to isolate their movements. And that's what the asynchronous is about. So one of the things that you can do to isolate eye movements is where the reading and the writing are going to be most powerful, is if you can do exercises that keep the head in the middle and make them look left, right, up and down, kind of like an American H. So it's kind of like up to the top, down to the bottom, over to the side, down to the side, and then diagonal. You will start to engage all 6 muscles that are in your eye and make them stronger and get your eyes working as one unit. Some of the things that happen with kids is their muscles in their eye aren't working together. So one might go faster than the other. And that's why they kind of move their head together, because they're trying to keep the muscles in their eye stable. So what we need to do is we need to get those eyes moving separate. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay.
One part also, there was a Montessori method. Have you ever heard Montessori method?
Oh, Montessori is great. Montessori is play-based. So Montessori really is taking play beyond preschool and taking it into the younger grades. Montessori really does benefit some children.
For sensory integration. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. There is...
Ebru, you have your hand up?
Yes.
Ebru, just a moment. I'm going to ask to unmute. Ebru, I'm going to invite you here if that's okay, because I just saw you raise the hand.
Sure. Do you hear me well?
Yes, we can now.
Okay. Well, good afternoon for you and good evening for everybody. I have a question in regards to my son. His name is Honor, and he's actually next to me. He's waving you. Yeah, and he was born in the States. We used to live in Miami, and he's fluent in English. Mm-hmm. And I thought we were gonna lose his English, but it didn't happen eventually, and I'm very happy. I'm very happy for that.
I'm not saying that for one or the other. It's great to have more than one language as a source. So.
Yeah, and he's learning German and Italian in his school right now.
You are going to be wanted by every government out there, honey.
Yeah, I mean, what suggestions you may have, for, to keep his English alive, for the next, levels. And, he was not that.
Keep practicing it. There is so much research that states that children learn multiple languages before the age of 6. You need to continue to nurture them beyond those years of 6, and the more languages that you can have as a core that is just part of you, the more you're going to be a global entity. So it's a great way to get him accustomed to being out in multiple parts of the world. So just keep using it.
That means when they are exposed before the age of 7 to another language, and they won't forget. And how?
Well, the research is saying is that they have more, those early years they absorb more, and you can teach them much quicker. So he probably will be able to retain it longer because it's more embedded into those early parts of the memory.